Well, it is now 2015 and I am back making videos. Hello everybody, hope you all had a great holiday season. I know I did. Santa Claus was very good to me. I got Nintendo 3DS, the first video gaming thing I bought in a long time, but totally worth it. Totally worth it. I'm really hooked on the new Zelda game, and the Mario game I got was very good too. And Smash Brothers, I got Smash Brothers too, and I like it, but it's a little hard adjusting to that game on a smaller screen. But the Zelda game is pretty amazing, and it's just like a Link to the Past. I'm so happy. But yeah, I just love that thing. But yeah, I'm a little late doing this video, but I wanted to wait until this weekend to do it because I wanted to make sure I saw Wrestle Kingdom 9, Lucha Underground, TNA's debut on Destination America, you know, maybe get some additional updates on the Royal Rumble and the Road to Wrestlemania and all that stuff. So I wanted to make sure I got past this week before I made this video, just so I could cover all of it and make one massive video all in one. Quick note, I know I said I was going to repost my Godzilla movie reviews from last year. I did not get around to doing that because I got busy with something else going on in my life. A good thing, and you'll find out what that is soon enough. But because of that and all the distractions revolving around that, I wasn't able to actually repost those. It's not that it would be time consuming, it's just something that it's a block of time I can't allow at the moment. So I'm probably not going to have a chance to repost those movie reviews until next month, sometime in February. But yeah, I'll get around to it eventually. And actually, my next video that I'm going to do a movie-related video because I did spend so much time last year talking about movies and reviewing movies. I thought it'd be cool if I did a top 10 favorite movies of 2014 and my top 10 worst movies of 2014. So you'll be getting that one next week. But for now, let's jump into wrestling. And I've got a lot to cover. And I would like to do it chronologically, but I think Wrestle Kingdom 9 is going to take up a lot of time, so I'll just put that one at the end. But other than that, let's jump into the WWE. When I last left the WWE, they were not in a very good place creatively. NXT was. NXT had just had their big Our Evolution special, and it was amazing. It was one of the best wrestling shows last year, and it was a 2-hour special. It wasn't even like a full-blown 3-hour pay-per-view, and it was still one of the most amazing shows I saw last year. Excuse me. While the main show with WWE had just put on TLC, and it was garbage, and it was lousy and terrible, and the Raws were just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. They were not in a very good place creatively. There have been 2 episodes of Raw since I filmed my last video. Or, well, has there been? Maybe 3. I don't know. I've lost track of time. The last 2 episodes of Raw that I've seen, basically, the show has gotten better. Some people have complained about having the Authority back, and yeah, I can definitely understand that, especially it kind of renders Survivor Series pointless. But I think with Daniel Bryan coming back, and I'm going to cover that in a minute, I think it gives him more of a drive heading into WrestleMania, especially if he wins the Royal Rumble, which we're not sure if that's even going to happen yet. So I'm not overly upset about the Authority coming back, and I think it allows a window for Sting to come back. And actually, the ending to Raw this week, where they fired everybody, I half expected Sting to show up, and I like that they didn't pull the trigger on it. And the closing segments to the last 2 shows have been really, really good. Even like the one with Seth and Edge and Cena, like the semantics of the whole thing make absolutely no sense, because I'm pretty sure it would never hold up in a court of law that Cena made a verbal agreement made under duress. I'm pretty sure that would not hold up at all whatsoever. But Seth's performance was just so good in that segment. He was such a great, like, Weasley jackass sinister heel that he just kind of carried the whole thing and made it work. And I thought the closing segment to this week's show was very good. So, you know, it's the bad guys keep winning, and when Sting shows up and when Daniel Bryan gets whatever it is he's going to get heading into WrestleMania, I think the storylines will hopefully start clicking a little bit better. And speaking of Daniel Bryan, I think him coming back is very, very cool. We all weren't sure about what his future was or whether or not he would even get into a wrestling ring ever again. So it really blows the door open of what they could do at the Royal Rumble, because I think we were all pretty dead set that it was going to be Roman Reigns who was going to win. And I think Daniel Bryan coming back throws a big wild card into the whole thing and really reshapes WrestleMania and what they could do. Roman Reigns could still very well win the Rumble, and I think he's still the safe bet, but I think Daniel Bryan coming back really, it makes it more of a question and less predictable. And there are plenty of options that they can do with this come WrestleMania time, and I'm already thinking in my mind. One main event they could do is Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins for the title. I mean, Seth Rollins has been added to the Lesnar-Cena match at the Royal Rumble, which could be good, could be interesting. My fear is that he's just in the match to eat the pin, but I hope he's not. I mean, if Cena pins Seth to win the title and they do that, I might just roll my eyes. But he does have the Money in the Bank, too. So, yeah, Seth is in a pretty good spot creatively, that he's basically the top heel. With Lesnar being a part-time guy, Seth has kind of carried the show as the main heel. And because of that, there's a litany of WrestleMania matches that they could give him. They could give him a match with Orton. They could give him a match with Sting if they wanted to. They could give him a match with Ambrose and Reigns in a Shield triple threat if they wanted to. They could give him a match with Daniel Bryan for the title. They could have him save his Money in the Bank cash-in for WrestleMania and basically do what they probably should have done with Ziggler back in 29. Seth is in a pretty good spot creatively. There's plenty of things they could do with him for WrestleMania. And it all starts with the Royal Rumble. I think once the Royal Rumble happens, we'll start getting a better idea of what the card is and what everything is going to be. And like I said, they have plenty of options for WrestleMania, and most of them are pretty solid, I think. They could do Rollins and Bryan, like I talked about. They could do Lesnar versus Reigns. With or without the title, I think they could still do that match. And Roman Reigns, the guy needs some work. He needs some work. He's not completely ready yet. I'm not saying he's a bust, but his promos are lacking. And I think he's been a little exposed in his matches because he's in the Shield. He was the hot tag guy and was allowed to be the burst of energy once the hot tag got in. But I think now we're seeing he still kind of works his matches like he's a hot tag guy, where they might start off okay, and they might end okay because he'll hit all his big moves and have his big burst of energy, but in between there's something really lacking there, energy-wise. And his matches just aren't as interesting in the middle. I've seen him have matches with Seth Rollins that are just kind of, it's like, whatever. And if you can't have a truly exciting match with Seth Rollins, who's A, one of the best workers in the company, and B, one of your friends, something's wrong. And something is seriously wrong. So my idea with Reigns was possibly to do, let's have him feud with Rusev or have him feud with Lesnar without the title and do Bryan and Rollins in the main event. And actually, Bryan Rollins' main event would kind of remind me of Austin Rock at 15, where Rollins is kind of the authorities guy and kind of like their chosen one, kind of like Rock was at 15 for Vince as the corporate champion, and Bryan was the guy who kind of got screwed out of the title and then comes back at the next WrestleMania and wins the belt. So it's kind of got a similar setup there if they decide to go that route. Obviously, other WrestleMania matches they could do, Sting and Triple H, I think is the pretty obvious one. They could do Sting Taker. I wouldn't recommend it. They could do Taker and Bray. I'm not sure if I'd like to see that either, although I don't know what else you would do with Bray at this point. One WrestleMania match they could do, and I think they should do as a low card undercard match, I think they should do Miz and Mizdow as a grudge match at WrestleMania. I think that could be a really good, nicely long built up rivalry that they could do, and they could jumpstart it at the Royal Rumble because they could do something where Miz gets eliminated and he expects Mizdow to eliminate himself to reenact what he does, and Mizdow doesn't do it, and then Miz runs in and costs him the Royal Rumble or something. And I think they could do something with that, and I think it would be a nice undercard grudge match for WrestleMania. So yeah, they've got plenty of options for a WrestleMania card, and most of them aren't bad. So hopefully they're able to put something together, and hopefully come Royal Rumble time they're able to kind of come up with a pretty good idea. I would give the Royal Rumble win to Daniel Bryan, but that's just me. I don't think Reigns is there yet. I don't think he is what they want him to be yet, and I think they've got more work to do. I mean, Ultimate Warrior, people talk about how he was rushed to the belt. He's like, he got a lengthy run with the IC belt before, and stayed at that level before winning the title off of Hogan. So it wouldn't hurt to give Roman something more mid card to kind of acclimate him and kind of adjust him and kind of fix all the problems with him and kind of let him grow and develop and not just rush him to the title because you want him there. I'm not saying he's a lost cause. I'm saying he needs a little bit of work, basically. But, yeah, so that's pretty much the state of the WWE right now. Raw has gotten better. It's still not good, but it's gotten better. And hopefully everything kickstarts when they get into the road to WrestleMania and good things start happening. And because right now the show is better than it was at the end of last year, where it felt like after SummerSlam, they did that amazing Ambrose Rollins match on Raw the next night, and then after that, Raw has just been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. It was almost like they had no plan after SummerSlam. They just did whatever random crap they wanted. So yeah, that's the state of the WWE at the moment. I took a lot of notes here. Is there anything missing? No, I think I got everything. No, okay. Everything on the main WWE. Oh, one thing I did want to cover. The Ascension promo from Raw that seems to have everybody in an uproar that it was offensive that the Ascension ran down LOD, and especially since Hawk is dead and everything, and everybody's been all offended, and Lance Storm commented on it and said it was very offensive, and Road Warrior Animal commented on it and said it was offensive. My take on it, and I'll say it goes back to the Four Horsemen promo that the NWO did, where they made fun of him and they made fun of Arn Anderson's farewell speech. It's like, look, it's a show. It's a TV show, and these guys are heels, and they're getting heat by running down the previous generation and saying that they're better. And to me, that's kind of Wrestling 101 type of stuff, and I personally didn't think it was that offensive. I love the Road Warriors, I love the Legion of Doom, I love Road Warrior Hawk, and I was upset when he died, but to me, they didn't say anything that offensive. They didn't say, we're glad he's dead. He's just dead. I mean, they made no reference to the fact that he was dead. They just said, hey, they were, we're better than they were in their heyday. And that's basically all they said. And they made fun of their catchphrase, which I can't help but notice that nobody ran to the defense of Demolition. I mean, they mentioned them too, and nobody ran to their defense. But, I mean, yeah, it's kind of the young generation making fun of the past to get heel heat. I mean, that's kind of something that wrestlers do. I just don't know why everybody gets so defensive about it and gets so upset. And like I said, it's a TV show. It's not, I mean, it's not like the Eddie is in hell thing, which I thought was really in poor taste. It's like, look, Eddie's only been dead for 2 months. Can we not go that direction, please? But that was a little unsettling. But this was just, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I really didn't. I didn't think it was that bad or that offensive. And even, the Ascension shouldn't even be blamed for it because, people are writing this for them and they're told what to do and what to say. It's kind of like Medusa getting a bad rap for throwing the women's title in the garbage can on Nitro. And my thought is that Bischoff told her to do it. And she was doing what Bischoff told her to do. And if she said no, she would have gotten fired, and then she'd have nowhere to go because WWE's not going to take her back. And WCW just fired her, so she's got, nowhere to go. So I don't blame her for doing what she did, and it's funny that Medusa's kind of been blacklisted from the WWE because of it, but they hired the guy that told her to do it, which was Eric Bischoff. And it's like, okay, sure, it's just weird. But yeah, I didn't have a problem with the Ascension promo, and I didn't think it was that offensive. Again, if they had made fun of the fact that he had died, sure, okay, I would understand that, but they didn't. They I don't know. I just didn't think it was that big of a deal. But that's just me. I also want to touch up briefly on NXT and what they've been doing since their big show, Our Evolution. Right now, they're just kind of... it feels like they're still kind of setting up the pieces for the next big thing that they're going to do. Sami Zayn came back on the last show, and that will, obviously lead to setting up his feud with Kevin Owens and continuing that story. And I definitely look forward to seeing what they're going to do with that feud, because it's going to be great. We all know it's going to be. But they're doing a slow burn thing. I like that they actually had Sami and Adrian Neville both sell their injuries from the ring apron power bombs. I like that they were off TV for a few weeks just to, sell the consequences of what happened there. And here's hoping next week they start really kicking the feud into gear and really start building up that match, because I think it's going to be really big. Tyler Breeze also came back this week, so it feels like everybody returned this week. But yeah, I'm glad that Tyler's back on the show, and hopefully they have something good for him, because he's kind of, I don't want to say they've screwed up with him, but because he still wins matches all the time, so he's still like one of the top guys on the brand, and he's still like, you know, he's been protected very well. It's just that he needs like a direction, and that's the one thing he's really lacking at this point. But you know, here's hoping they pull the trigger on him and do something good with him. One knock I have on the shows coming out of our Evolution, they've done a few too many rematches from our Evolution, and you know, I'm the type of guy, it's like, look, if you're going to do rematches, you should build them up over a long period of time, not just give them all away just a few weeks after the show, especially since all of the rematches they've done so far have had the exact same result, so it's not like they evolved the story or did anything different. They kind of just did the same matches again. Like, Tommy and Baylor versus the Ascension, there's really no reason to do that match again. They already beat them at our Evolution, and the Ascension was being moved up anyway to the main roster. So to me, there was no reason to do that match again. Lucha Dragons and Vaudevillains, you know, it was basically the same as it was as our Evolution. You know, same results, same everything, so why even do the match again? Even though I do like the reasoning for the rematch, it wasn't just, oh, we get a rematch clause. It was, oh, the wrong guy was pinned, the illegal man was pinned at our Evolution, so we have a right to get a rematch. So I like the justification behind it. But yeah, I'm not a fan of doing so many rematches on one on top of the other. Although it's still nowhere near as bad as the main show. I think coming out of TLC, both Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt, which I hope to God they never wrestle each other again, and Seth Rollins and John Cena both had trilogies within 8 days of TLC. So I mean that is overkill right there. So NXT is still like, even when they do something I don't like, it's still not as bad as what the main roster does. And I think now once we do Zayn and Neville next week, I think we'll kind of be past all the our Evolution rematches. Then hopefully we can just go into a fresh direction from there and just keep the ball rolling. And speaking of that, I think next week's show is going to be really good. We're getting Tyson Kidd versus Finn Balor. And I think that could be a really good singles match. They've already wrestled each other once, I think. So I think they could have a really good match. I think Bull Dempsey versus Baron Corbin has been a well-built grudge match, and they're doing that next week. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they book it, because it's like, okay, is it going to be a squash match or is it going to be a real match? I don't know, but it's interesting, and I want to check it out and see what they do. And we're getting Neville and Zayn next week in a rematch, and obviously Kevin Owens is going to play some kind of a role in it. So, yeah, NXT, yeah, they're setting up their pieces, and that's something that they do very well on that brand. They kind of, it might seem like they're taking too much time to set everything up, but when you consider that they do quarterly specials, they got to be very careful and take their time in set up the pins before they go ahead and knock them down. And not every show can be like this, you know, blow their load, go all out crazy every week. They focus more on squash matches and character builders and promos and segments and stuff, and then when it comes time to do the big specials, they deliver. And I love that style of booking. It's old school booking, and I really like it. And the shows they do actually make sense, and the booking makes sense, so that's always great. But NXT, still liking it, and God, I can't wait for Zayn and Owens. I think that's going to be really great. And from there, we jump to TNA, who made their debut on Destination America. And I watched it, and I've got... How do I put this? How do I want to put this? Production-wise, it was different enough to where it felt like a different show, at least on the onset. I thought the opening brawl was at least somewhat well done. The crowd was energized, the wrestlers seemed motivated, and they seemed reinvigorated and everything, so okay, that's cool. So there was a different energy there, and I think they tried to put on the best show possible. The problem, the booking hasn't changed. It's just same old, same old. How much outside interference do you need in one match? Title changes that were senseless. Why did Austin Aries beat Low Ki for the X title? What's the point? What's the difference, you know? With no build-up and no, like... not a very good job. They didn't do a very good job of like introducing the wrestlers to the potential new audience on Destination America. That was another thing that was weird. I mean, I knew who all these guys were because I've watched the show before, but you would think that they would have taken a little bit more time to actually introduce what's going on here and everything. But yeah, the main event segment had 3 heel turns piled on top of the other, and it just seemed to they were just throwing as many bodies out there as they possibly could. It was kind of a mess. It was kind of a 3-ring circus booking wise. That said, the one really cool thing they did was the return of Awesome Kong. I thought that was a really cool moment and that was actually a really awesome moment and was really cool. And it was good to see her back. And hopefully they're able to do something there with her and Havoc. Personally, I think they're just going to blow it off within a month. But if it were up to me, I would build that match up for like 6 months or something. But, you know, nobody wants to do that anymore except NXT. And, oh, wait, NXT's the best wrestling show around. What madness is this? So, yeah, and I also want to praise EC3, Ethan Carter III. I think he's one of the best heels in wrestling. He is absolutely great and a real diamond in the rough for TNA, and they should showcase him more and more and more because he's one of the best guys they have, I think. And I think he's proving more and more that WWE kind of made a mistake by letting him go. He's a natural on the mic, and you don't see many of those nowadays. And I think he's great. I think he's TNA. You know, of all the new guys that they bring in that aren't very good, I think Ethan Carter has been like a bit of a home run for them, and I think they need to keep showcasing him because he's pretty great, I think. But yeah, it just looks like this show it's just going to be same old TNA pretty much. It's just the booking just wasn't there. I hear that they're doing Feast or Fired again, which oh my god, I hate that match so much. I hear that they're doing Lockdown at the end of the month, which. Okay, I mean, are they just going to do monthly TV specials? I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but it's just it's just messy. The booking's still messy, and that's a big problem for them. And they need to. I mean, that's the big thing they need to fix. First, they need to make sure that the shows they're writing and the shows they're producing are well written, and then hopefully. You know, a lot of the other problems will correct itself from there. But that's where it really starts, and the booking just wasn't there. The opening video package was very good. The wrestlers seemed reinvigorated. The opening brawl was very good. It had at least a somewhat different look and feel to it, which was nice. But you still got to write good shows around all that stuff, because eventually that initial spark is going to wear off, and then you're going to be right back to where you were last year, which was almost a nothing show. So hopefully they're able to fix that. But when by the end of the show, I was just like, "Yep, same old TNA." It's just, yeah, it's just the booking. It just hasn't changed at all. But yeah, that's definitely a problem. But like I said, Awesome Kong's return was pretty cool, and I do like EC3 a lot. So there were at least those bright spots to it. And now it is time to talk about Lucha Underground, a promotion that just crowned their first champion with the Aztec Warfare match, which occurred this week. Congratulations to Prince Puma, the first ever Lucha Underground champion. And I know I've talked a little bit about Lucha Underground and what I think of it, but since the last time I talked about it, I've had a chance to go back and watch all the episodes and watch the Aztec Warfare match and everything. And I have to say, I really do like the show. It's just fun. I love the fact that it's only an hour long, which is just it goes by so quickly, which makes it so much better. I love so many of the characters on the show and the way it's presented and everything. And you know, I like Drago and I like El Cuerno and I like the feud that they're having. I like the Chavo Guerrero Blue Demon. Sorry, say it with an accent. I like that storyline. I like Sexy Star's involvement in it as well. I like. So many of the characters are just really good. Dario Cueto and Conan deserve major props for their acting ability, because they're the ones that really carry the backstage segments that they do. Well, backstage segments, I mean, the way the show's presented, it feels like a show within a... Like, the wrestling show is like a show within a show, and it's almost like it feels like that's what WWE is trying to do, but they don't quite achieve that level of... success with it. But you know, the segments they do, the non-wrestling segments, like in Dario's office or in you know, the locker room and stuff like that, it feel like something out of a movie, and it's really well shot and really well done, and it really kind of, I think it really works. And like I said, the acting ability of Dario and Conan in those segments is just really what carry it, really what sell it, and it's like, damn, they're really good. I think the video packages they do for the wrestlers, they introduce people to the wrestlers, are very good. I mean, Sexy Star came off so well in hers, explaining her whole backstory and finding strength through wrestling, and Very progressive the way they treat their women on the show. Granted, Sexy Star is not exactly the most creative name in the world, but they let her work with the men, and they let Ivelisse. I like Ivelisse a lot, by the way. I really like her on the mic, and I wish they'd give her a win once in a while, because I really do like her. But the way they have the women wrestle the men, I think it's actually kind of progressive, and it's something different that no other show is doing. And it does make you look at the main WWE show. I mean, NXT, they have Charlotte, who is absolutely outstanding, and they have these outstanding matches with people like Natalya and Bayley and Sasha Banks, and she's just doing great. And like I said, she's like the Peyton Manning of women's wrestling. She's just a thoroughbred, just outstanding, and she's one of the top stars on the brand. You look at TNA, the best thing that they did on their first show in Destination America was bringing Awesome Kong back, and it was treated like a big deal, and it was like a big surprise. And you have Awesome Kong and Havoc being built up in a match, and that's going to be sold as like their big bruiser Battle of the Monsters, and it's two women. So that's awesome. You look at Lucha Underground, they've got Sexy Star and Ivelisse, and they're working with the men, and they're great at it. They don't look out of place at all. And credit to the men for being willing to sell for them as well, because that's what really helps, and they don't look out of place doing it. And that's, again, it's very progressive and very good that they're doing that. And then you look at the main WWE show, and the divas get 1-minute matches in storylines that don't make any sense, and they're used to promote a shitty reality show that makes them look like spoiled brats. So, who's the out-of-touch one, Vince? It's just, and then again, you look at UFC, and Ronda Rousey's one of their big stars, and that's why when Punk did his podcast and talked about how Vince thought UFC was barbaric and that it was horrible that they were going to have women do it, and Punk's like, yeah, the women are doing it, and they're awesome. Have you seen them? They're great. It's really fucking cool. And that's, every other promotion, it seems, is, really highlighting their women very, very well, and Vince is not. And if you believe the dirt sheet reports, but when I read that Vince is upset that NXT is being perceived as better, it's like, well, that's one of the reasons right there. Is like the women actually matter on NXT. It's like you've conditioned me to not care about the women on your show, Vince. So, and the constant heel face turns. Paige is a face again. How did that happen? I have absolutely no idea. Alicia Fox is a heel now. How, where, why? I don't know. I have no idea. They just randomly do things just for the sake of doing them. And again, it's all to promote a reality show that sucks. So, I don't care how many people watch it. The show's terrible, and it's just, I can't stand watching it. But I've only watched it once or twice, and it's just, I felt myself getting dumber. But anyway, moving on. Lucha Underground, I do really like the way they present Sexy Star and Ivelisse. Mil Muertes has the best backstory of any wrestling character since Kane. And yes, I know it's Judas Macias under the mask, but when they revealed his whole backstory and they did that whole video package for him, the video packages they do for their wrestlers are amazing. Try to imagine the Bray Wyatt family promos that they were doing when they first showed up. All right, try to imagine those, but for every guy on the roster that they give them to. So many of them. Pentagon had a really cool one as well. Wins and losses actually matter on this show. The whole genesis of Chavo's heel turn was the fact that he lost to Blue Demon. They did the triple threat match. It was Phoenix, and Phoenix is very cool, by the way. And in a show that's full of high flyers, he actually manages to stand out as well. But anyway, they did the triple threat with Phoenix, Drago, and Pentagon. And Phoenix got pushed out of that. Pentagon was a loser, so he kind of got bumped down, and then Drago, who was the one not involved in the fall, kind of got stuck in. They did a segment the next week where Dario was like, "You didn't win last week, but you didn't lose last week, but you didn't win either. So I'm not sure about you yet." So just little touches like that really help the show and really make it fun to watch and fun to track from start to finish. And the show they did to set up the Aztec Warfare match was very cool, with the two 10-man matches, and then the two winners fought off for who gets to enter number one and who gets to enter last. And it was the two undefeated, Phoenix and Mil Muertes were undefeated up to that point, so it was actually the match they did to just determine that seeding was also very cool and made a lot of sense. It was very good. And then you get to the Aztec Warfare match, and it's basically the Royal Rumble, only with pinfalls and submissions instead of over the top rope eliminations, which it kind of created that format that I'm kind of tired of. You see it with juniors and X Division guys and cruiserweights and stuff like that, where so much of the match is setting up those big spots where people will dive outside of the ring, and they'll just keep piling one more guy on top of it's just a giant dog pile basically. And that spot I'm kind of getting tired of. But also there's that Money in the Bank type of format where everybody will be outside the ring, and then you'll have 2 or 3 guys in the ring to set up a spot or something, or do a showdown or something. And there was a little bit of that going on in this match as well. But overall, I thought the Aztec Warfare match was a lot of fun. Great to watch from start to finish, and showcased so many of their characters well. Mil Muertes suffered his first loss and still looks strong in defeat, taking Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma to take him down. And actually, the whole Johnny Mundo Prince Puma storyline has actually been pretty good all the way through, and working in Big Rick's group in the process, and the $100,000 thing, and the whole snafu with that. And I do like that Morrison's on the show, because I do think he presents something different other than another masked luchador, even though, I mean, Johnny Mundo is not the greatest name in the world, but it is nice to see him again. And his matches with Prince Puma have been really, really good. And I do like that Puma got the belt because of the whole thing with... he's been so well promoted being Conan's protege and everything, and I think they could get more storyline... more storyline mileage out of Puma as champion over anybody else. And it was just very good, and Lucha Underground is just a fun show to watch. It's just a lot of fun, and I recommend it to anybody who's looking out for new wrestling. And it's very different in its presentation, and it's it's just fun. It's just a really fun show, and I dig it, and I enjoy it. And again, it's only an hour long, so I'm not getting beaten over the head with everything, and I don't feel like overly bloated, because that's one of the main problems with Raw. And I can make fun of the writing all the time, but it's like, look, they are trying to fill 3 hours a week. I mean, that's a Herculean task, and they should really consider dropping an hour or 2. I mean, if Raw were an hour long, or even if they do the thing that Vince Russo suggested, where they give the first hour of Raw to NXT, I would be okay with that. I would be perfectly fine with that, because then you get NXT on, you give them more exposure, and then Raw is back to only being 2 hours, and it feels less bloated, basically. But yeah, Lucha Underground, if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. I think it's... give it a chance. I can't promise that you'll enjoy it, because it is very different, but I would say at least give it a chance, and I think it might surprise you. And I do, like I said, I do like a lot of the talents there. And Dario Cueto, I can't praise him enough. He really is, like, one of the best actors in wrestling right now. And I hear he actually is a legit actor, which... even better, because he's really good, and I think he's really one of the main reasons the show works so well. And they've got other storylines set up, and they've got other things that they're doing. They've got other characters they want to bring in. They've got so much going on there, and it's just, like I said, it's just fun. It's just a lot of fun, and I do enjoy it. It's not perfect. I'm not a fan of Vampiro on commentary, but like I said, it's not perfect. But overall, it is a very fun show, and I do enjoy it. So yeah, check it out. And we're going to wrap up here by talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom 9, presented by Global Force Wrestling for us audience members here in the States. And I saw this last week, and it was great. It was a great experience for me, because I have never seen a live Tokyo Dome show. I've always seen matches here or there, and I've always seen, if I did see a show, it was months after it happened. I've never actually seen one live as it was taking place. And that was great to experience, even though I had to stay up from 2 a.m. To 6 a.m. to watch the whole thing. It was still very cool, and it was just one of those great wrestling fan experiences that you could never... it's just one of those milestone things, I guess. I just really enjoyed it. And what were my thoughts on the overall show? I thought the show was fantastic. I thought it was very, very good. I do have a couple of nitpicks on Global Force Wrestling's presentation of it. It would have been nice if they had included English subtitles for the video packages and the promos and stuff. Like, I would have liked to have known what Tanahashi was saying to Okada after the main event. We got a loose translation of it from Stryker and JR, but it would have been nice to actually know what they were saying. And if Global Force does things like this in the future, which I hope they do, because I just keep doing stuff like this, I'd be more than happy with it. I would hope that they would provide English subtitles just so we would know what was going on, and clue us into every little piece of the story of what's going on, because the language barrier is an issue for Japanese wrestling and Mexican wrestling, and that's anything they can do to kind of bridge that. I mean, AAA, they're lending their talents to Lucha Underground, and that's kind of their way into breaking into the American market. And if Global Force is going to do things like this with New Japan and other promotions around the world, it would be nice if they were able to bridge the gap of the language barrier and find ways to fix that. And I think having JR and Stryker on commentary definitely helped with that, for sure. But if they should go the extra step and actually have English subtitles for the promos and the video packages. And but overall, I did really like the production of the show. New Japan's end, the production was great. I heard that they had to cut down on the special entrances because they wanted to fit everything into 4 hours. But the set looked great. The video package at the beginning was amazing. Even if I couldn't fully understand everything that the guy was saying, the video package to start the show was amazing. And where they ran down the whole card, it was really, really cool. And I got really excited for the show after watching that. And you know, the video packages they did for the big matches were also very well done. So production-wise, the show was very good all around from New Japan's end. And I did like JR and Stryker on commentary. I mean, JR stumbled over his words a little bit, but Stryker bailed him out. And Stryker was very knowledgeable about all the guys, more knowledgeable than JR was, so he was able to help fill in the blanks, and JR, you know, would sell things and make things seem important, like in the main event. That really paid off in the main event where JR kept putting over Okada's dropkick and you know, things like the Rainmaker clothesline, so that when those things actually happened in the main event, it felt like a big deal. And again, going back to the language barrier issue, those are parts of the story that would get lost on American audiences that don't speak Japanese. I wouldn't know why Okada's dropkick is a big deal. I wouldn't know why the Rainmaker clothesline is a big deal, because I don't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling all the time, and you know, finding ways to make that clear to the American audience, I think, is very important, and was very good. And I did like having JR and Stryker on commentary, if for nothing else, to fill in all the blanks and make all the stories matter, like the Suzuki Sabata match. They did a very good job of filling in the blanks there and making it seem like that match was important. And JR's excitement for the Makabe Ishii match was definitely, you could feel that. The Intercontinental title match, you could feel the excitement in that match and the excitement in the main event as well. And listening to JR call an AJ Styles match was very, very cool, and that was worth the price of admission alone for me. So overall, I just had a really fun time with the show, and I just thought it was great, and I really loved it. But let's go through each match one by one. And now I have my notes out. I have to have my glasses on because I want to make sure I don't completely butcher all these names, because some of these guys I saw for the first time, and you know, not all the names have immediately registered with me, so I want to make sure I don't completely butcher it. So oh, one other thing, I would have been nice if Global Force had also given us, on the pre-show, if they had given us the New Japan Rumble. I heard it wasn't very good, but it would have been fun to see guys like Liger and Michinoku and Kabuki and all those other things that they threw out there, just to see who they got. It sounded like it was a really long version of the Gimmick Battle Royal from WrestleMania 17, but again, it would have been fun to see, and I would have liked to have seen it. So that's another thing that Global Force should think about. It's like, include the pre-shows too. That'd be nice. And maybe do your own pre-show. Like, and they had a countdown show, but it was just video packages and JR talking about the matches, which is great, but it would have been nice to actually see them live in Japan, actually covering what was going on. So that's another thing. But again, it's for a first attempt, this was very cool on Global Force's part, and I hope they incorporate more wrestling promotions from around the world into this umbrella of theirs, and actually find a way to get us this foreign wrestling, and again, bridge the language barrier, and, you know, break the language barrier, I should say. And but yeah, kicking off the show, we had the Four Corners match for the IWGP Junior Tag Team Championships. You had defending champions Red Dragon, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly, the Time Splitters, Alex Shelley and Kushida, the Forever Hooligans, Rocky Romero and Alex Kozlov, who appears to have stepped away from wrestling for a little bit. I heard that little headline the other day, so I hope everything's okay with him. And yeah, because he is a talent. And, you know, if he's going through some personal problems right now that he needs to take care of, you know, it's good to step away from the business and do that. But I wish him all the best. Then you had the Young Bucks as the fourth team, and this match was pretty much what I expected it to be. And it was also nice that this match came first, because as an American, I am familiar with most of these guys. I've seen Red Dragon live. I've seen the Bucks in TNA. I first got exposed to Alex Shelley through TNA. Alex Kozlov I'd seen in various promotions and from TNA, Ring of Honor. I think I saw him in PWG once. So I've seen these guys all over. So I was familiar with a lot of these guys. So this one wasn't as... it was nice because I actually knew who most of these people were right off the bat. I'd seen most of them before. And it was... the match was pretty much what I expected. It was just an athletic train wreck with, flips and spots and all sorts of craziness. And it was pretty much the type of match that I would have expected. But as an action-packed opener, it was very, very good. It was good at achieving what it needed to achieve. The Bucks are amazing as a team. Like, the things that they're able to come up with and the things that they do in the ring are just spectacular. I like seeing Alex Shelley again. I've always been a big fan of his, especially in a tag team. Like, obviously, the Motor City Machine Guns are a great team, and I think the Time Splitters are very, very good as well. I think Kushida kind of makes a nice partner for him, and I think they work well together. Red Dragon is obviously very, very good. I mean, the Forever Hooligans are probably the weakest team out of the four, which that's like kind of being the... I don't know. That's it's no shame in being the weakest team out of those four because all four of them are very, very good. And I really do like Red Dragon a lot. And I thought they carried their end of the match very well. And I just enjoyed seeing all the action and all the familiar faces and everything. And it was just a really fun match to kick off the show with. And Red Dragon retained the titles in what was a very exciting, very action-packed opener. Next up, we had the six-man tag, Team New Japan versus Team Bullet Club. The New Japan members were Hanma, Kojima, and Tenzan as they took on Jeff Jarrett, Bad Luck Fale, and Takahashi. This match was short but sweet. I mean, they're really, going over the entire card, there really wasn't a single match on the show that I didn't enjoy to some degree. But this one was just kind of, it was short but sweet. The real star of the match was Hanma, and him getting a big victory over the Bullet Club. And again, it was nice having Stryker and JR on commentary to fill me on who Hanma was and how he was a sympathetic favorite and how he'd won people over during the G1 Climax tournament and things like that. So, really, somebody who I'd never seen before, they really got me to like him really quick. And he kind of came off as this kind of sympathetic babyface. So him getting the big win here was kind of cool, and it was really well done and well booked and everything. I mean, nobody else really got to stand out. It was really just Jarrett and Hanma who were the only ones that really got a chance to really shine. But overall, it was fun for what it was, and I did enjoy it. The next match on the show was also short but sweet, but also a little too bloated as well because it felt like there were a lot of things going on. It was Toru Yano and his teammates from the Noah promotion, Marufuji, Nichols, and Haste. I'm sorry. Again, sorry. And these guys aren't even Japanese. They're Australian. But, it was those guys taking on the members of Suzuki Gun, Shelton Benjamin, Lance Archer, Davey Boy Smith Jr., and Iizuka. When I said that this match felt bloated and it felt like there was a lot going on, obviously you had the cross-promotional thing with Noah and all the things that meant. You had the tag team partners split between Yano and Iizuka, and that was supposed to be the main story of the match. And then you had a match that went about as long as the six-man tag, but with two additional guys in it. This match just felt a little overly bloated, but everybody got to hit their spots. Shelton still looked good, and Lance Archer got to hit, yeah, he got to hit a big choke slam, and it's like, oh wow, he still gets work. That's cool. And Marufuji was really cool and everything, and the Noah guys got to shine all right. So even though it felt a little constrained, it was still a fun match to watch, regardless. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what goes on. Obviously, I would think that the Noah cross-promotion would lead to bigger things down the road, but we'll definitely see. But overall, this was just another... It was probably the weakest match on the show, but it was still a fun, solid filler match. Next up, we get the first singles match of the show. Minoru Suzuki versus Sakuraba in a UWFI rules match, meaning that you could only win by knockout or submission. I wasn't sure what to expect out of this match. And again, this is me being an American fan who's not overly knowledgeable about New Japan. But once again, JR and especially Stryker did an amazing job of painting the picture of why this match is important, why people are excited about this match, and why it matters, given the history of the two men and everything, and their histories in both wrestling and mixed martial arts and everything, and how good they are at both. And this was a kind of a... They worked it like an MMA fight, but with that pro wrestling heightened reality flair to it, so it was this nice balance of the two. And overall, it was just a really well-worked match. I really enjoyed it, and Suzuki looked like a legitimate crazy person in there, and him, even when he was selling the arm injury, he looked like a psychopath. It was just great. And, some hard shots in this match, some great submission moves, and the way they transitioned into those moves and everything, and the brief fight outside the ring. It was actually a pretty cool match, and I really liked it. And Suzuki really won me over during the course of the match, so I was happy that he got the win. But man, that was a very enjoyable match, and was probably the best match on the show up to this point. I really liked it. But the next match coming up is one I really, really loved. I really, 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 really love this match. Tomohiro Ishii defending the Never Openweight Championship against Togi Makabe, the Unchained Gorilla. I love this match. I really did. Now, I asked questions to people. It's like, what is the Never Openweight Championship? And apparently it was supposed to be a title for like the new guy's belt, like kind of like what NXT is to the WWE. It was supposed to be something like that, but that NXT New Japan version never really panned out. So, but they kept the championship belt, and it was like, and now it's just kind of like a, as the title implies, open weight. There's no weight limit to the championship. So it's like, all right, that's interesting. But you also have this heavyweight belt, the Intercontinental title, that was supposed to be like the foreigner belt. That's my understanding anyway. It was supposed to go to the foreigners, and mostly Japanese guys have held it since it was created. So maybe they ought to consider, I don't know, unifying those belts or something, because maybe it's a few too many heavyweight championships going on. But regardless, that's just me. Makabe and Ishii went out there and had this brutal, stiff, awesome, pounding old school bruiser match that was just so much fun to watch, and the match just kept building and building. The shots got harder and the spots got bigger, and it was just this awesome match, and I really loved it. And this is the style of match you don't usually get in America, and if at all. And if this is the type of thing that Global Force wants to do in presenting just a completely different flavor to professional wrestling, I mean, this is the type of match they should be showcasing. And JR was definitely excited for the match. When it was over, he said, I'd pay money to see that match again. I'm like, so would I, JR. So would I. And Ishii coming into the match with a shoulder injury obviously gave them their story point to lead to Makabe being able to overpower him and win the title. And I really liked Makabe after winning this match. After this match was over, I'm like, I really like that guy. I want to watch more of that guy. I mean, that was one of the guys that really won me over during the course of the show. And I just, I was fully prepared to come on here and say that this was my favorite match on the show up until the main event happened, which I just spoiled what my favorite match on the show was. But I really loved Makabe and Ishii. I thought this was just a great, brutal, stiff, violent match, and it was so much fun to watch. I really got a kick out of it. So I can't praise that match enough. Next up, we had the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship with Taguchi defending the title against Kenny Omega. I've always liked Kenny Omega. He's changed a lot since the last time I saw him. I kind of playing a weirder, more out there character, especially as part of the Bullet Club, and on most other cards, this would probably be the second best match on the show, maybe the best match on the show if you're having a bad night, but it was probably the least remarkable of all the singles matches on the show, but even then, it was still a good match. It was still a perfectly fine, good, solid match, with some good action, some good spots, especially with the turnbuckles and the ring, basically the corners and the ring apron, and I keep saying ring apron, the turnbuckles, that's what I keep meaning to say. So they did some cool spots and everything, and it was a fun match overall. It was probably just the least remarkable singles match on this show, which had a lot of remarkable singles matches on it, so it's really, I can't really bash it, but we got a title change out of it. Kenny Omega won the title, which is really not that surprising. He has more flair to him than Taguchi does, so I think it was probably just looking at who your better option is. I think Kenny was probably the right way to go. So, and especially since the Bullet Club lost a lot of matches on this show, it's good that they came up with their head above water, at least getting a title out of it. So, but speaking of that, moving on to the tag team, the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship, the Bullet Club would actually lose those titles, so it kind of canceled each other out almost. You had Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows defending the titles against Goto and Shibata, and again, I love that JR and Stryker were there on commentary to tell me that Goto and Shibata have a history going back to high school, and that they were friends, and then they were enemies, and then they became a tag team, and, you know, mended the friendship and became a tag team again and again. Those pieces of the story that get me to care about the guys and differentiate them. Those are important in wrestling, because, again, with the language barrier, it's hard for me to get an idea of who these guys are, or what the story is, or what led them to this point or anything. It's really hard to convey that to English-speaking audiences. So, again, it was really nice to have Stryker and JR there to fill in those gaps. This match, I was a little disappointed that they just kind of threw the tag format out the window and just went for straight tornado tag. I like traditional tag team wrestling with, you know, tagging in and out and formulating strategies and you know, cutting the ring in half and things like that. Those are the things that I like. Tornado tags are fine in moderation and for special circumstances, but it feels like a lot of matches today just at some point in the match they just throw tagging out the window and just go for a wild tornado tag, which, you know, I was kind of hoping this match would be more than that. But in that style of tag team wrestling, just, you know, being a wild, all over the place affair, I thought it was an exciting match, and it was very, very cool to watch. So it was still a good match, even, you know, my nitpicky disappointments aside. And the title change did feel like a big deal. And again, because they told me that Goto and Shibata were friends and they have this long history together, it really made the title change feel all the more satisfying when they did it. So again, you got your big tag team action on the show, and this one was the best tag match on the show, probably. Well, I don't know, the opener was pretty fun too. So you know, you got your fair share of tag team action on the show in a day and age where tag team action is very rare and often reserved for heavyweights and combining pay-per-view matches together to make a tag match on Raw or Impact or something. So you know, it's always nice to get matches like this. Next up, we got AJ Styles versus Tetsuya Naito. This match was great. I love this. Again, it was great to hear JR calling an AJ Styles match, and I love the whole story of the match with the Styles Clash unfortunately becoming a dangerous move through legitimate injuries, although I've heard it, and I've never actually seen the Styles Clashes that resulted in the broken necks, but from what I've heard, it's the other guy's fault for tucking his head in on the Styles Clash, which you're not supposed to do, and I don't know. Maybe that's a language barrier thing, I don't know, because, I mean, AJ did that move for years and hardly hurt anybody, so almost, I think he'd had one bad one in TNA with Kazarian, if I recall correctly, but other than that, he'd done the move dozens and dozens and dozens of times and never hurt anybody. And actually, it looks like it should be a really safe move, actually, if you look at the way the move is set up. So if guys are tucking their head in on it, and if that's what's causing the problem, then they need to not do that. But because of all of that, you get this match where the Styles Clash is being built up as like the most dangerous move in pro wrestling. I think it was Stryker that said it's the most dangerous move in pro wrestling since the pile driver, and I'm like, wow, that's really a heavy boast to put on there. But it really created this whole thing where AJ was just trying to go for that kill shot, and once he hit it, you were going to fear for Naito's safety. And then the way they set up all the counters and everything, and the match was really well wrestled and really well worked, and AJ got to have a great match on pay-per-view with JR calling the action, which that was a treat for me. And the Bullet Club got the victory again as AJ hit a super Styles Clash to win the match, and really was a big spot and really a great finish. So really enjoyed that match, and it was just great to see AJ Styles again. It's just yeah, that was a real treat. And next up was one of the, I guess you could say, co-main events. Shinsuke Nakamura defending the IWGP Intercontinental Championship against Kota Ibushi. This is the match that seems to be getting all the praise from people. Dave Meltzer gave it a perfect 5 stars and everything, and everybody seems to be saying it was the match of the night. I don't agree. I really liked the match, don't get me wrong. I loved it and I thought it was great, but I was shocked that that was the one that was getting all the praise. And I'm like, really? I kind of liked the main event more, and I kind of liked Makabe and Ishii more, and I kind of like, even AJ Styles and Naito, I kind of like that match at least as much. So I was like, really? That's the one that's getting all the match of the night praises? I'm like, all right. I was like, sure, whatever floats your boat. But I still really like this match. Nakamura, I've seen him a few times before, and he's very charismatic and very cool, and I love, he probably had the best entrance of the night, just being him, basically, and it was a really fun match to watch, and I loved Ibushi's whole story about how he started off as a junior heavyweight and then transitioned into the the heavyweight ranks, and that's kind of instantly made him likable in a way. And he looked very, very good here. And the way Stryker and JR were talking, there was like he made himself a star even in defeat. So he put forth a hell of an effort in there. And actually, the match itself was just great. It was just great action all the way through. That one spot they did where he lifted him up from the ground outside the ring and then picked him up over the ropes and suplexed him. That was just an amazing, amazing visual, and you don't see stuff like that all the time. It was almost like Cesaro-like strength. And a lot of other cool things that they did in the match. It was just a great action-packed match and a great championship match. And as a co-main event, it was very, very good. But I like the main event more. That's and I guess that's where we'll go into it. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus the Rainmaker Okada for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And holy Moses, this match was awesome. This was this felt like a big match. This felt like a big-time WrestleMania-esque, Starrcade-esque level match. It just felt huge, and the way JR and Stryker were talking about it, I already talked about how they kept putting over Okada's clothesline and his drop kick and all that stuff to really make those spots matter. And you know, all the different ways, the way the match was worked was just great, where it looked like Okada just was the young guy that was taking down the old guy and was able to dance circles around him in the early portions of the match, and then Tanahashi was able to fight back and hit all those different variations of the of his version of the frog splash. I forget what it was, the high fly flow or something like that. All the different ways he was able to hit it from every different portion of the ring was very, very cool. There were several parts in the match where I thought Okada had it won. Like when he hit the Rainmaker clothesline, I thought it was over. When he hit the drop kick, that was a huge moment because JR kept building it up, and it was like, all right, so when he hits this drop kick, it's going to feel like a big deal. And various other things that they did, and it was just this wonderful main event and just this great action-packed match. And it was really a great capstone to the whole show. And it's really amazing that on a show with 10 matches, so many big title matches and big singles matches, and you know, you had the Neverweight title match, you had AJ Styles and Naito, you had the IC title match, you had the UWFI rules match, you had all these different big singles matches, and even after having to follow all of that, Tanahashi and Okada went out there and had an outstanding match, just outstanding. I was a little surprised that Okada didn't win the title because it just looked like, you know, it was going to be, with Global Force presenting this pay-per-view live in America, I thought that they would have gone ahead and put it on this guy who seems more marketable, seems more exciting, and just seems like the fresher act to me. I thought that they were going to go with Okada and just have the show end on a big title change. They didn't do that, but, you know, we'll see where everything goes from there. And just to sell, like, the emotion of the match and how big this match was, Okada crying after the match was over just felt like, oh man, it really captured the emotion of the whole experience. It was really really something to see. I mean, this match was just outstanding. I can't put it over enough. It was just a great show, and it was a great main event that was a capstone to a great event that I really enjoyed seeing. And like I said, there really wasn't a match on this entire show that I didn't like to some degree. It was just thoroughly entertaining, briskly paced. I mean, for a 4-hour show, I mean, there were some WrestleManias I've seen where it just feels like a chore at points to sit through the whole thing. There are episodes of Raw that are just so bloated. I mean, just a 3-hour Raw just feels like, oh my god, this is just too much. This is too much. But here you had a 4-hour event that just one match on top of the other, and everything was just kind of fast-paced, and they were able to keep the excitement going even with all these big matches and all these big things going on. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that every match was different. Each match had its own story and its own purpose and its own significance. So I think every match was able to stand out better that way. The UWFI match was clearly different from the Never Openweight Championship match. The IC title match was different from the IWGP Heavyweight title match, and the AJ Styles Naito match, and all that stuff. So every match was different, and everyone, almost every match stood out, definitely. And it was just a great show to watch, and it is really exciting that you have AAA getting their talents involved in the American market through Lucha Underground, and you have New Japan with this partnership with Jarrett's promotion, and they're having their pay-per-views presented to an American audience. So they're breaking into the American market, and that's very cool. So it is really nice to see that. companies like New Japan and AAA are presenting us with more options and finding ways to present more wrestling to the American audience, which is sorely needed. And it is great. It is exciting. And Wrestle Kingdom 9, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it, and I loved it. But that is all I have for now. Hopefully I'm all caught up on wrestling now with my first video of the year. Hope you all are having a good 2015 so far, and I will be back with more next week. I'm going to be talking more movies next week, but we're heading into the Royal Rumble, and we got other big things coming. So until then, I will see you all later.